We're looking at the offense on today's Cowboys Report. Specifically, what changes are coming with Brian Schottenheimer in charge of both the play calling and the overall coaching staff as the head coach this year for the Dallas Cowboys. Some players hinting at changes coming, so I want to break down what those might end up looking like. Before we get into that, we do have the lead in the July like battle over the Raiders report. We've got a little less than a 2,000 like advantage, but we're getting close to training camp. That is not that's one video. That's one video's worth of likes. Let's extend our lead. Help us out by liking today's show. Now, there have been some comments about changes that are coming to the Cowboys' offensive schematics and scheme and game planning without giving away it all, because that defeats the purpose of the changes being a surprise. Here's what Deuce Vaughn said on Up and Adams. Schotty will have his mark. Coach Adams will have his mark on the scheme. I'm excited about it. I won't say too much, but I'm really, really excited for it. These OTAs and the minicamp process was really fun. It was nice to dive into the playbook. Dak Prescott, I'm super excited. We made some changes, personnel and the scheme that will just come with it. I think Schotty's done a good job this minicamp of putting guys in the right places, putting guys in space, and allowing them to see how he's going to be used. Look, there is zero doubt there will be changes. It would make zero sense if they just ran the exact same offense that McCarthy ran last year that I had issues with and think the Cowboys players had some issues with. Plus, this is Schotty's chance. If this doesn't work in Dallas, he's not getting another head coaching shot. There's no way. So he's going to put his imprint on this offense because this is how he keeps his job and gets his long-standing career goal of being an NFL head coach. How big will those changes be? What elements in both the passing game and the run game and the cohesion of both are going to be changed? And what will they be? I think there is still, and we'll get into this in depth, a lot of unknown with like what those changes actually are. I have some ideas. I have some theories based on what Schotty said, based on what's been reported. We'll break those down here. Before we get into it, I do want honest answers on this one. Vibes are better coming out of minicamp and OTAs, but what is your confidence level in Brian Schottenheimer? Scale it 1 to 10 in the comments of today's show. Schottenheimer's kind of asked about his offensive philosophy at his opening press conference. And he says, I go back to my days with Pete Carroll. I think if you go back with some of the things we did in Seattle, our starting point would be the things that our players do well. You're always going to start with that. If your system's not flexible enough to do what your players do well, then you're probably in the wrong business. This essentially boils down to players over scheme. You got to adjust your scheme to fit your players. And I have never heard a coach say anything other than players over scheme. Every single one of them says that. Not all of them actually deliver on it. And how many times have we heard, he didn't fit the scheme? Now, sometimes they had a guy that fit the scheme better and it made sense to move on after a couple of years. But not everybody actually adjusts their scheme to their players. That separates the elite coaches from regular coaches. Now, at his press conference, Schotty had a couple of comments about what he prefers. Cut splits, which I think what he's meaning to by that there is the essentially reduced splits. So you're not as wide like McCarthy's offense. The receivers were out wide. They were some of the widest split averages from the receiver distance to the offensive line distance. You see Sean McVay, for example, loves those tight splits. That's what I think Schotty is referring to. He says he believes in motions and shifts. So does everybody. I want to see it. He wants to marry the run, the passing game, which I actually do think matters. I felt like the Cowboys, especially under McCarthy, they had two types of play action plays. The first one was they just did that little waggle. They fake it and do a rollout left and check it down to the tight end. Or max protect vertical shot. Then that never worked. Either Dak wouldn't hit the throw or he would and the receiver would drop it, or there'd be two guys downfield because it was always telegraphed, because it was always at the 30 to 45-yard line is where they would run it. He says tempo, the run game matters. All of these things I like. I think at times, if not consistently, were huge issues for the Cowboys. I don't think their run and pass game concepts looked very similar. It made it too much of a telegraphed system for the smarter, better defenses. I want more motion and shifts. McCarthy said motion and shifts are good sometimes. It kind of felt like McCarthy kind of listened to Dak and Lamb in 2023, kind of reverted it back a little bit in 2024 because it was his ass on the line, which I get. Like, we've heard more motion. We've heard more Turpin has been like a consistent theme from the beat writers. I'm like, okay, I've heard that 2 years in a row then. Like, I remember the Cowboys putting the Kevontae Turpin backfield package in the playbook in training camp. It did not get used in real games that matter until like November, when the games didn't matter anymore, December. Okay, why'd it take so long? I need to see these ideas, these principles, these philosophies actually implemented in games. Because if they're not used in games, then it doesn't matter. If you're not going to do motion and do things that work and make your offense better, then cool. You can have the best ideas ever, but if you can't build the invention, it doesn't mean anything. Now, we won't see those until games, and probably not even the preseason. But hey, we're less than a month away from preseason football being back for the Cowboys, and thank God. Like the video if you are excited for our watch parties here on the Cowboys Report. I want to look at the run game here. And the Cowboys have publicly claimed to be a team that wants to run the ball better. They want to run it more. They want to be more effective. I've heard that a lot. That was a Mike McCarthy staple 2 years in a row. Like, Kellen wants to score points. I want to win games. Like, what are you doing? Like, kind of a dumb comment, frankly. Okay. Are you going to do that, though? I think, especially with Clayton Adams in the fold as the Cowboys' offensive coordinator, and I suspect kind of run game czar, I got a pretty good feel for what that run game will look like, at least what the Cowboys want it to look like. Think about what the Cowboys have done, and this is specifically last year with their run game concepts. Inside zone, 31.1%. Outside zone, 22.6%. So it was 50% zone concepts. That pulling lead plays, 11.9%. Man/gap, so kind of some, I think, not sure how PFF counts. It's all from PFF. I don't know how they count duo for inside zone versus man, but 10.4%. Trick plays were at 4, like, reverses and stuff. The jet sweeps sometimes to Turpin. Counters and draws, the occasional trap play. They did run some power at 3.5%. Sneaks at 2.4%, which is higher than the Arizona because they did not do sneaks with Kyler Murray. But that, it's 4 concepts above 10%. That is it. It was not a very heavily used option. It was 2 above 12%. Well, the Cardinals had 5 different concepts above that 12% figure. Inside zone was 20%. Man was 18%. They did a bunch of counter. They did a bunch of pulls. Hey, you've got very athletic linemen on your offensive line that can do counters, that can do pulls and get to the edges. It's not just halfback dive up the middle for 3 yards. I actually loved Arizona's run game concepts because that offensive line, it wasn't good in Arizona. And the before and after contact numbers are startling for Dallas last 5 years under McCarthy. They were a pretty consistent above average team after contact and a very consistent below average team after contact. Last year, 29th before contact, 14th after contact. You know what Arizona was before contact the last 2 years? 1st and 2nd under Clayton Adams. To me, that tells me scheme and concepts more than anything else, especially when the talent on the Cardinals line wasn't elite. So do you think, and we kind of went in depth on this with fixing the issue, but will the Cowboys' run game end up being better this year? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to go the Hopium route, it's fine. It's July. It makes sense. Y for yes, N for no. I think I know what the run game is going to look like. I don't know what the overall offense and passing game is going to look like under Brian Schottenheimer. I suspect it will still lean a lot on what Dak likes because that's kind of why he got the job, because they want to marry Dak and Schotty, which I don't know if I love that arranged marriage, but is what it is. I'll say this. I don't want Marty Ball 2.0. I don't want this to be, a throwback offense. We're going to run pass. Marty Ball was a pejorative. It was not a positive phrase. Marty Ball was just Garrett football. It was, we're going to run the ball, and then we're not going to be able to deliver wins in the playoffs. That's what it was. That's what Marty Schottenheimer eventually did with LA, which I kind of think Dak is just Phillip Rivers, but it's a whole different conversation. I think run, pass as a strategy is stupid. I think it's a bad idea. You have to have more creativity. Because if you do run, pass, and you can't run the football, guess what? You're in 3rd and long. That's a bad spot to be in. Best way to get 3rd downs converted is actually to avoid them in the first place, or at least make them short. I'll say this. Their actions, I don't think that indicates that's actually the goal for this Cowboys offense. They can say one thing, but their feet are doing something else. They're not exactly making moves to build some type of elite run game up front. Think about the main offensive moves, because there wasn't that much change. A lot of guys coming back. There's only minor adjustments, really. George Pickens added at wide receiver. He's the new receiver, too. Cooks is out. Tolbert kind of stays in the 3 spot now. They took a right guard in round 1 to replace Zach Martin, but the other 4 starters are all the same. They lose Rico Dowdle, and they went essentially with less investment than any other team in football at the RB spot. That is not the actions of a team that wants to bring back the Great Wall of Dallas and establish it behind Emmitt Smith. Now, we'll have a lot of Cowboys YouTube videos for you each and every single day. Training camp at long last almost here. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. I think the strength of this team is still the passing game, specifically the Dak Prescott CeeDee Lamb connection. And that's where Dallas is spending its money. They've paid Terrence Steele. Offensive line is all heavily invested draft picks for the most part. But they've paid CeeDee Lamb. They've paid Dak Prescott. George Pickens was an investment for a 3rd-round pick in a trade, right? I don't want this offense to revert some of the issues of it's 3rd and Dak, go save us. You can look at just the 3rd down numbers. Dak's been really good on 3rd down. I mean, 2023, he was actually better on 3rd down than he was any other down, which is actually a bit of a concern because I think it's some of the 1st down, 2nd down woes have plagued this team. I don't want to lean on that as a plan for your offense because it works in the regular season, not so much come playoff time. I've got no doubt that changes are coming under Brian Schottenheimer. It wouldn't make sense if he was just going to copy-paste McCarthy's scheme. He's in charge now. This is his way. Hopefully, it's the stuff that we like overall. And he delivers on his alleged goals of, not alleged, he said it, his goals of motion and shifts and marrying the run and pass game and having some more creativity, getting guys in space. And hopefully those changes end up working in the end. But I don't think we're going to know if they worked for a while. I have seen elements, Kevontae Turpin backfield package, not installed in camp, not used until week 12. I have seen this team add that and then not do it in the regular season. So in the end, like a lot of things with Brian Schottenheimer, we're going to have to take a wait-and-see approach here because we're not going to know in the preseason. It's going to take some time to implement the offense, and we'll see if it works or not.